I'm going to skip ahead into certain things. I titled this service, Those Blessings That Shine Through the Littlest Windows, and I feel like each of those candles represents one of those blessings, one of those windows, and the ways in which we open our windows to one another as we walk into this church. I had the thought that I might offer you all some actual images from my window onto the world, and I took some photographs, and then I decided it would take too long to figure all that out. But you would have seen a photograph of a chicken coop that I built out of pallets last year, and a garden that's overgrown with weeds, an unmown lawn, and garden furniture that's really kind of haphazardly strewn everywhere. There's a lot of piles of things that I didn't have energy for out there. I built this coop last year out of pallets but I would pick one up every time I dropped a kid off at school. It got dubbed Cluckingham Pallets by my wife, and she gave me a sign for Christmas of our Cluckingham Pallets. But this year, sometimes it was just hard to mow the lawn. And I found myself running and running just to feel a little bit further behind. And I started to develop this awareness that I needed to lean into the things that were a salve for my soul, a balm for my spirit. And usually that has been gardening, and to a certain extent it was this year, because I started out with such hope. Don't we always? But like many things in my life this year, my garden has become a bit of a joke at this point. We tried to valiantly carve out some space from those weeds that had taken over since the last time we had, to give it a lot of attention. And I planted tomatoes, and I cared for them with as much due diligence as I could, and I gave them structure and feeding and water and rats and birds and more weeds. Looking back a few weeks ago now, with extraordinary irony, I optimistically signed up to enter some of my tomatoes alongside our beautiful blue ribbon winning eggs in the fair. They're still green 2 weeks later. That lovely shade of unripe green that are looking at me with confusion. What did I think was supposed to happen? We're not diagnosing anything here. I'm not looking for tips on tomato growing. This is a symbol, right? With me? I did inspect the tomatoes at the fair, though. Where were they grown? What conditions might have provided these huge, red, ripe tomatoes by the third week of August in a calendar year where the fair was earlier than normal? Sometimes the best we can give doesn't feel like enough. So I was sitting outside, and I was looking at our weed patch at the still unripe tomatoes, and all the monarchs that were flying around in there from the weeds that I couldn't pull out yet. So praise be to weeds. Even when we fail in some task that we have set ourselves, they give us butterflies. Sometimes the best we can give that doesn't feel like enough, sometimes even that yields unexpected joys. So it was really hard for me when I started to feel pulled in a different direction than I could sense that this congregation seemed to need. It is almost exactly a year ago that everything in my life changed. My father took an extreme action, and I have been dealing with it ever since then. But I didn't know all the ways in which it was going to cause me these moments of disconnectedness, or not knowing the right thing to do, or just trying to lean into things that would help me figure out a way forward. So when I realized that everything was shifting and changing in my life, that I had had this profound experience, and I couldn't bring people along with me because you didn't have that same experience. You had your own, and we walked through those together, but it's unfair, impossible even, for any one person to say, what I did changed me, and so you have to change too. That's kind of where it got for me. I was grasping for shreds of joy everywhere I could find them, and every time I felt like we weren't in sync a little bit, I realized I got to a conclusion that was a little bit late for me, that I couldn't stay. So sometimes when I think about that, I think about wishing that I had come to my understanding sooner. If I had understood how much the changes that I was experiencing had prevented me from figuring out how to help us all engage in collective change. That's a regret I have. But after the decision, I just started to find some deep relaxation within me. I have a fond memory of last weekend sitting with Orion out on the porch and composing silly songs, starting with one called Cinnamon Pie and ending with one called Chicken Music, which featured a solo by Orion called Chicken Beethoven. And I'm outside on the porch and I'm singing to my chickens and I'm pondering this year's sad garden, and I got to thinking about my compost pile, how I have put countless unconscious minutes, should be hours really, but, and literal chicken poop toward this thing that seems to exist so far in the back of my memory, but still manages to shift and change and turn itself into something useful and precious. Sometimes the things that we do in the back of our heads and we set aside are still growing. They're still changing. Sometimes the best we can do makes us sad. And it gives us something to pass along that we may know will feed and bear fruit in the future, and maybe even ripen. Sorry. We had a lot of windows today. None of us know, really, the impact that we have on one another. In American mainstream society, we are granted precious few opportunities to name with any sort of authenticity the power of our connections. We say thank you, we send cards, in these ways we endeavor to put into words the power of human connection that, if we're being honest, can never be put into words. How do you tell someone else the extent to which they have mattered in your life? I mean, really make sure they know. You may do your best to find the absolute right word, and you may insist that they look you in the eyes and really hear what it is that you have to say, but our brains are also wired to discount those words, to shrug them off, whether through strained humility or a sense that if they knew the whole story of who I am, they wouldn't be saying such kind things. But as Brian Doyle says, we're only here for a minute, and we are here for a little window, and to use that time to catch and share shards of light and laughter and grace seems to me the great story. The great story through the littlest window, the great story that is, listen, hear me say this, I am grateful for you. You matter to me. You've changed my life. You've saved my life. Let us laugh and forgive and seek solace in one another's company. What a story. What an opportunity. We are living in a time of pretty rapid ministerial changes. Some of that's related to just how much we move around in the 21st century America. Some of it's related to the natural landscape of church, and some of it is COVID. Some of it is more recent, and some of it is the awareness that for many of us, we were dealing with things during the pandemic that made us realize we were burning out faster than we thought we could or would or should. And they became to be walls that we hit with a lot of speed that could not be transcended or transformed, no matter how compassionate the congregations in which we were serving. So when things like that happen, rapid recovery can look like a modern-day miracle. All of that is true. But it does not negate for me that I wish that I could stay longer with you all right now. I believe that we had so much hope at the outset to craft meaningful, shared ministry that could have held within it so much potential energy. But I believe that it is also true that my person, am the least essential part of that essential potential energy. That the capacities of this church and this congregation exist independent of my individual ministry. I say this not to undercut my role, but to reiterate this truth offered by our spiritual ancestor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who reminds us that what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us, what lies within you. And while we may have inherited a dangerously individualistic spiritual legacy from that same man, those words apply on a congregational level more than ever. What was and what will be are not the story, are not the blessing, not the window blipping by at 65 miles an hour, not the unripened tomatoes. The blessing, the window, is the now. And the now can only be accessed by claiming with authority and pride what lies within you, the collective, right now. Each and every one of you has been a blessing to me, granting me brief windows of connection that have taken the forms of lessons and learnings and opportunities for growth and deepening and invitations into all that I didn't know, alongside grace and faith that I might develop into the capacity to know such things with more certainty. Who knows what impact we make upon one another? What kind word or gesture, what listening ear or tear-soaked shirt sleeve might ripple forward with extraordinary meaning in the lives of others? As people of faith who are animated by love and compassion, I offer that we possess this power. No matter if our car is headed in the other direction, if we get a little moment of eye contact through those littlest windows, we owe it to ourselves and one another to use that time to catch those shards of grace and light and laughter. Because why not? We lose nothing and gain everything by orienting ourselves toward possibility and hope and modeling compassion and ensuring that our moral compasses point toward justice and equality. And so I say thank you for these blessings. Thank you for the infectious laughter. Thank you for the stories and the reminders not to take myself too seriously. Thank you for the reminders that even when we feel fatigued, there are those among us who find an indefatigable stream, so driven by the importance of community that we hold and value diverse perspectives. Thank you for the infectious optimism and modeling among one another that capacity to see and value people for whoever they are. You are a model for religious community. Thank you for your devotion to good work and good works, for evidence of a faith that things can always be made better, more just. Thank you for showing a sense of responsibility to individuals and communities, both small and large. Thank you for showing what it looks like to pick up what others would walk away from. Thank you for your trust in me. Thank you for those who expressed such a willingness to say yes and no, when no is what you need to say. To demonstrate boundaries that prioritize both your health and the health of the congregation. Thank you for believing in all that we can do together. Thank you for asking, can I do this? And believing me when I say yes. Thank you for offering me grace and compassion when I needed it most, for recognizing that raising small children always throws chaos into plans, and raising aging adults as well. Thank you for your love and your honesty, for calling me in when I missed the point or the boat or the avenue into care, when I fell down into some administrative pothole and you offered a hand rather than a rebuke. Thank you for your words of affirmation that almost always seemed to come when I was flagging and needed to hear it the most. Thank you for inviting me into your lives, for allowing me to travel with you in the most challenging times your life hadn't even prepared you to imagine. Every hug, every song, every prayer, every laugh, every smile, every compliment, every critique phrased, hopefully, through love. You are a blessing. You are a blessing to one another. You are a blessing to me. You are a blessing I will take with me when I leave, and a blessing I hope to encounter out in our community together. I cannot count high enough to name them all. And so I leave here with unripened tomatoes, and that's okay. With love, with faith, and every hallelujah. Amen. I invite us to sing so that I have a moment to catch my collective. And we're going to sing Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, which is in your hymnal number 126. Please rise in body, spirit, voice, hope. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, offer songs of loudest praise. All the hope of blessed Please be seated. So during this year, the thing that I leaned into a lot was fear. I was afraid a lot. And so I found music was very helpful to me. I spent a lot of time with it, listening to songs, playing songs, trying to put my emotions into music. So I think it's appropriate that I provide you with a sung benediction. We're going to do our best. I'm going to do my best. This is a medley. I've sort of smushed together two songs, one by Josh Garrels called Benediction, and the other in the middle is an Iron and Wine song called Call It Dreaming. And so I encourage you to reach out in some way to those nearby. This is a benediction. You are the community that creates energy through it. So I hope you'll receive these words with joy and appreciation. I saw Sheila and Kevin at open mic when I tried to sing this song there and really messed it up, so I'm glad they didn't stay. But it's gonna be, yeah, so this is the first time, and I hope that you will see a different version today. If I close my eyes, it's because I'm trying not to cry. May all of your days shine brightly, and your nights blessed with peace, wherever you lay down to sleep. And all things are made good for those who believe. May we grow from these trees into strong, fruitful trees. Those were seeds there. As the days unfold, hold your breath to see. Life is a mystery, and joy it is severe when the way is rough and steep. But love will make our days complete. Say it's here where our pieces fall in place. Every rain softly kisses us on the face. Any wind means we're running. We can sleep and see 'em coming. Where we drift and call it dreaming. We can weep and call it singing. are strong enough. We can bow, 'cause our music's warmer than blood. Where we see enough to follow, we can hear when we are hollow. Where we keep the light we're given, we can lose and call it living. Where the sun isn't only sinking fast. Every night knows how long it's supposed to last. And the time of our lives is all we have. We get the chance to say, before we ease away, for all the love you've left behind, you can have mine. Say it's here where our pieces fell in place. We can peer, 'cause our feelings find to betray. Where our water isn't hidden, we can burn and be forgiven. Where our hands hurt from healing, we can laugh without a reason. 'Cause the sun isn't only sinking fast. Every moon and our bodies make shining glass. And the time of our lives is all we have. We get the chance to say, before we ease away, all the love you've left behind, you can have mine. And may the work of our hands help those in need, befriend the lonely, serve the weak, and forgive enemies. As the days roll by, hold your breath to see. Life is a mystery, and joy it is severe when the way is rough and steep. Love will make our days complete. Thank you all. So I invite us to really lean into that love and go outside and feed one another in love as well. Yes? Let's do that. Blessings to you all.